Giving feedback to your manager shouldn't feel like you're walking a tightrope, but let's be honest, it often does. Whether it's poor communication, missing one-on-ones all the time, or just unclear or maybe non-existent expectation, you've probably felt that tension of wanting to say something, but not knowing how, without, offending them or just having them dismiss you, or just making it be plain weird. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to give feedback up the chain without it becoming a complaint or burning some really important bridges or just having to tiptoe around all the time. You'll learn how to structure what you say, how you say it, how to stay calm and fact-based, and how to frame your feedback so it's helpful and doesn't come across as hostile. Because when it's done right, feedback is not a criticism, it's a relationship development tool for both of you. So let's get into it. First thing we need to remind ourselves time and time again is that managers are not mind readers, okay? They've got a lot of priorities going on. They're trying to juggle many different things. So while you should be a really high priority of theirs, especially in good management, the nature of the beast is that they are juggling so many different things that it's easy for them to not necessarily see all of the minutiae of what's going on, and therefore not realize if some of their behaviors or some of the things that are happening at the moment are being unhelpful to you. So it's really important that you get comfortable with approaching your manager with any type of feedback that you might have. One thing we also might want to do is just reframe this idea of feedback being some sort of criticism. So feedback does not equal criticism. Feedback is bringing to light for sort of two parties some information that is affecting at least one of the parties and just seeing whether we can find a solution to address it, okay? That's what feedback is, the sharing of information. So let's reframe it that way firstly. So what we want to do is we want to make sure before we go into this conversation, you want to get clear on what do you want to say and why, okay? What's going on with you that you'd like to feedback for them. Now, in the modern workplace, there has been, and I speak about generational differences in other of our videos, but there has been a rise in acceptance of us having a more holistic consideration of individuals, okay? So I'm going to give this advice by acknowledging that first, that it is important, critically important, that you have emotional, physical, and psychological safety at work. So if part of this feedback that you want to give to them is because you need one of those things addressed, then that's completely fine. But I am going to talk about bringing feelings into it in a minute. But ultimately, if we just take a little bit of a step back, and with regards to the world of work, the priorities here are your ability to do your job. Because your ability to do your job impacts you directly. This is the way you're showing up at work, how fulfilled you feel, the value you're bringing. Like, that's critical. But that is also a critical priority for your manager, or at least it should be. So your ability to do your job will impact their ability to deliver on their priorities and subsequently do their job. So any feedback conversation, you're already starting in a really good place if you can solidify how is the behavior you're experiencing or the circumstances you'd like to give feedback on impacting your ability to do your job. That's a sound, solid place to start, okay? Now, what we want to do is, so we're going to frame up the conversation in that way when we come into it. We want to stick to facts. You know how I feel about facts? We want to stick to facts and how something is impacting you. So rather than coming in on a personal attack, because I promise you, personal attacks are not going to get us anywhere. Rather than coming in and saying, so one that comes up all the time is that my manager's kind of disorganization is ruining my working life. I'm getting handed things last minute. They're not prioritizing their time, and that's impacting me. So, we're not going to walk into a conversation and say, you're really bad at time management and it's stressing me out, even though that's probably what we are chatting to our friends about. What you want to go in with is, look, when the deadline changes last minute, or when I'm given information last minute, it's making it hard for me to deliver quality work. It's compromising my ability to do my job. So can we look at the issue is how much time I'm being given to do things? Can we look at that? So we're coming in with what's the outcome that we're trying to get to here, and we're staying with our facts. Now, Feelings are going to naturally come into some things, but what I always encourage is let's not put aside how we feel about things, how behaviors are making us feel, or how we're being treated, but let's use those feelings to inform us on what needs to change. So a little quick activity you can do is that if you are struggling with a working relationship with your manager and you like to give them some feedback, and generally that feedback is going to be something about how they are behaving or actions that they are taking, but you have a lot of big feelings around it. It's causing stress. You are, feeling on the back foot. You're feeling nervous, frightened, whatever it might be. I encourage you to take a minute and write it all down. Or dictate it onto your phone, whatever you want to do. But write down all the feelings. And then I want you to unpack underneath those feelings, how is that impacting your ability to do your job? When I'm frightened, I hold back making decisions. I don't speak up and contribute. Things fall behind, right? Now, if we look at the behavior of theirs that is instigating these feelings in you, we can then make that correlation, okay? So rather than you're behaving like this and it's making me feel like that, we're going, you're behaving like this, or these actions are taking place, and subsequently, this is how it's impacting my ability to do my job. The subtext of that, if you have a good relationship with your manager, which means that you're probably not that worried about giving feedback anyway, but the subtext of that is, this is instigating this type of a feeling in me, which is impacting my behavior at work. So if we can address this, then we can, I can do a better job. Now, you want to seek understanding of their situation, and you can even demonstrate understanding. I can see you're flat out. I know you're really busy. I understand there's a lot of pressures, whatever it might be. And you want to come in solutions focused, right? So I notice that our one-on-ones are always getting rescheduled. They don't tend to happen when they're supposed to. Would it be helpful if we locked in a regular time? Would it be helpful if I call you for 5 minutes? Shall I walk with you between meetings? So come in with some solutions. Ultimately, what we're trying to do with feedback is you're trying to frame it as something that is going to be beneficial for your development and your progression and your ability to do your job, which by sheer nature has a positive impact on their ability to do their job, and that should be a motivating factor. Now, final point that I want to make here, because hopefully you've come into this conversation, you're prepared, you're even-keeled, you're dealing with facts, you're providing solutions, you're understanding this is just a conversation to share information. This is not an attack, and it's not a character assassination. We're just having a conversation. So we can both leave the room with a better and clearer understanding of what our situation is. One little thing that I come up across a lot is inaccessibility of managers. So you want to give them some feedback, you want to have this discussion, but you can't get a hold of them, or they're avoiding it as a conversation. So my recommendation here is always do not let this fester. Don't let this become something that weeks go by and you still haven't had the conversation, because this is just going to escalate how big a deal this situation is in your head beyond what it started out as, okay? So what you want to do is approach your HR, your people and culture, and go in with curiosity. I'm having these challenges at the moment that are impacting my ability to do my job. I'm trying to get a hold of Dave to have the conversation, but he's really busy and we just haven't been able to make it happen. Can you give me some guidance on how I can get this conversation to take place, because it is impacting my ability to do my job? Give me some guidance, help me understand. And then they should be able to step in and help you understand, okay? But please rest assured, feedback is a really valuable and critical part of any working relationship. And I encourage you to practice it in every opportunity that you have.